So, hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews here for Hospital Radio Reading and for my YouTube channel. I'm super excited because my guest today is music icon. He's done acting, he's done it all. It's the fantastic Duncan James, of course, famous for Blue. How are you, Duncan? How are things?
Well, that was a lovely intro. Thank you very much. I'm like a jack of all trades and master of none. I'm good. I'm just sat in my garden at the moment because it's been a lovely day, and I think we've got this nice weather for hopefully, I don't know, at least a few more days. Although it must get really hot in the hospitals. It makes me think because I remember being in hospital at a certain point in my life and it being in the summer, and it was so sweltering in those wards. So yeah, my sympathy is for in this heat. It's not the most comfortable of places, is it really? So,
Now, I mean, I know one thing I just wanted to briefly talk about. I saw a comment that you made about a particular song that I want to talk about because I love it as well. What is your opinion of Kylie Minogue's latest stuff? We have to
ah,
talk about that. It's a great song. What
oh,
what do you think of it?
it makes my heart go padum padum. I love it so much. I listen. I am a huge Kylie fan. So when I was a little boy, actually not that little because there's not massive amounts of age between us, but when I was a teenager and I was growing up. Oh, someone's ringing me. Go away. Hang on. So, growing up as a teenager, I loved Kylie. I used to be a huge Neighbours fan. I used to always come home from school. I remember and sitting in my front room with my grandparents and my mum, and I would always insist on putting Neighbours on, and I'd have an argument pretty much every day with my grandpa because he wanted to watch the news. So my grandma would have to step in and say, Donald, you can watch the 6 o'clock news, but he liked the local news that came before it. Anyway, so I used to be, but it's Neighbours. I really want to watch it. So I became in love with Kylie. I loved her with the whole perm, the frizzy hair, that I should be so lucky in the bath with the little, when she's blowing the bubbles. I mean, for me, I was like, oh my God, I am in love with Kylie. This is way before I figured out that I was gay. I mean, maybe I knew I was gay because I was in love with Kylie because she's such a gay icon, but I didn't know that back then. And I just had her posters on my wall and just absolutely loved it. And then obviously I've got to meet her in my career, which has just been insane. And every time I've met her, she's just the nicest, down to earth, politest lady. So just lovely. And she's never, ever, ever, I've never met her and I've gone, oh, she's let me down, from being such a fan. Never. She was just always gorgeous. And I'm so happy for her because she's smashing it right now. Padam Padam is such a great song. It's everywhere. You go to the clubs, they're doing all the remixes of it. It's huge. And I'm really, really, really happy for her because it's a great song and she deserves so much. I love her. And I'm going to see her in Vegas.
Oh,
And I'm so
fantastic.
excited. I'm going to see her in Vegas. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. I just come out of the gym, so I'm all pumped up. But yeah, I'm going to see her in Vegas and I can't wait. I'm so excited. Really, really excited.
And did you watch her in the Neighbours final? Were you happy that she came back for the final?
Sorry, say that again.
Oh, I was just saying. So
I lost
obviously
again.
she came back for the final of Neighbours. Were you happy to sort of see her in that final episode?
I was. It was so lovely. Her and Jason, Charlene and Scott. It was just lovely. It was really, really cute. And I just heard actually some news that I think is it Amazon Prime have bought this series and they're going to be, well, making it into a series like a thing, like a telenovela for Amazon. I think I'm assuming they're bringing in some big names. Yeah, I read that in a paper the other day.
Yeah, no, it is back in 2 weeks' time on Amazon Freevee, which is the sort of the free sort of platform of Amazon Prime. So yeah, definitely it's on its way back very soon.
Amazing, amazing.
Now, obviously for yourself, music is a big part of your life. So how did that come about? How did you get into Blue? How did the love of music come into your life?
So, oh, let me turn it off. So my grandfather was a music teacher at school, and growing up as a kid, we had a piano in the front room day, and he would practice the hymns in an evening, and we'd all listen around to him playing. And he was wonderful on the piano. He really was an incredible pianist. But my grandfather used to always read music, and I grew up as a kid, and my grandfather really insisted that I learned the piano from a young age, like maybe 3, 4, that kind of age. Um, and I would end up hearing the song or what I was trying to play without being able to read the music. So I would just hear it and play it. So I never was able to read music. I would always be able to play from hearing. So when I started doing all my grades and my piano lessons when I was young, got to the exams, and it would always come up to the sight reading test. And the sight reading test used to give me, oh, it used to put the willies right up me. And I probably shouldn't say that, but you know what I'm saying? It was really awful. It made me absolutely filled with anxiety because I knew that I couldn't read the music. So I would always get to that part and just, yeah, yeah, it wasn't very good for my bowels back then.
So then when did Blue come along? How did you get into the band? How did that come about for yourself?
So Blue happened in 2000. I was in another band before Blue with a really dear friend of mine called Rita Simons, who you might know from playing Roxy Mitchell in EastEnders. We were in a band together for about 3, 4 years. We did this whole album with this incredible songwriter, and nothing ever happened with it. And then after that, my grandparents died. Pretty much towards the end of that, my grandparents died, and it kind of really hit me hard because I was super close to them. They were just the most incredible people. Grandpa was a colonel in the army. When we used to drive to Blandford Camp, when he would be going to play the organ at the garrison, I would love it as a little boy because every time they went to open the gate with the security guard with the gun, he would always salute because my grandfather was a colonel. So he would always salute my grandpa. And I used to think it was the coolest thing. And I guess for me, music has always just been in my bones. My mum loved dancing. I grew up listening to ABBA, all of those great songs. And then really I was just always wanted to sing. I wanted to perform. If I wasn't performing at school in a school show, I was in a local theatre group doing something or rehearsing for something. So I was always just like loved all of that ever since I was tiny. And I was pretty rubbish at everything else at school. I wasn't very academic at all. Um, yeah, so it was much more just my love of performing, really. Um, so yeah, I was really lucky with Blue. It happened. We got signed to Virgin Records, and it was just like a whirlwind overnight. Really, we did success all around the world. It was insane. I mean, I was only 23 years old. I was a kid. Do you know what I mean? I hardly had any pubic hair, but I was a very young 23-year-old, and I was very naive, very kind of innocent, I think, because I grew up down in Devon and in Dorset. So I all of a sudden I'm in London and there's all this going on, and it was just crazy. It was really, really, really insane how quick the band grew in so many different countries around the world, and we were just always every week on a plane to some new place I've never been to. So it was a lot. It was a lot going on.
And I mean, All Rise, obviously, probably the standout hit from Blue, which everyone knows. When you were recording a song like that, do you know it's going to be a hit? What's going through your mind when you're first given this song?
So All Rise was a really interesting one actually because we recorded it in Norway in a place called Trondheim, and it was from Norwegian producers called Stargate, and Stargate have gone on to, I mean, they're just huge. They went on to write lots of songs for Rihanna and produce loads of Rihanna tracks. Just so many different artists. It's incredible what they've done. And back in the day with us, they were responsible for Mystique, all the hits from Mystique, for Blue. They did loads of different stuff, and we were very lucky because we were very much on their kind of radar, and they just had this really unique way of recording your vocals and working with you, and it was brilliant. It was so great to learn that style. And I remember we recorded All Rise, and the producers wanted to sing it very staccato, and we were like going, why are we singing it like that? It's really weird. It was like one for the money and the free ride, and we were almost like taking the key out of it, being a little bit over the top with it than we should have been, because we were like, what is this? And we didn't think anything more of that song after that. We really didn't think anything more. And the backing track that we recorded it to was very, very different to what you hear today. So when we got a phone call from the record label saying, we've got our first single, it's going to be All Rise, we all kind of looked at each other and said, All Rise? What? That song? And we were laughing, going, what on earth? That was the song we were like taking a mickey out of singing the chorus. When we got into the record company, they told us to sit down and listen. And then this harmonica came in. Da, na, 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 na. And we all looked at each other and we were like, what's this song? We don't remember this. And we listened to it. And then when we heard the chorus and how what Stargate wanted from our vocal with the production that they had made, it was just like, oh my God, it was genius. It was brilliant. And we all looked at each other and we were like, wow, those guys are super, super, super geniuses. They're amazing. And we were so lucky, really, because we had many hits with Stargate. One Love was another big hit. Then we got to do the Outen track, Sorry Seems to Be, which again was Stargate. They did Curtain Falls. They did so many tracks for us. And we're very, very lucky that we had that collaboration with them from early on.
I was going to say, you must feel so lucky that you're in a band with three people that you get on with so well. I mean, you're like, does it feel like, brothers, or, you seem like you've got a really close bond?
I would say your statement was debatable. We have our moments. We are like we say that we're like a married. Well, we are married to each other. Really, we're like brothers that are married to each other. There's when you've been together for nearly 24 years, warts and all about everybody. You know what pushes people's buttons. You know their insecurities. You know everything. You know the vulnerabilities, and that's what's made us so close and real with each other. And I think after 24 years, while we have never lost a member, we've always stayed together through the many ups and downs of the blue roller coaster that we have been on. And there's been a lot, but you know what? We love each other. We care about each other, and we are like genuine brothers. And I don't think there's many other bands have that real connection like that. I mean, I know certainly from many of the bands that I grew up with, maybe just Steps are the only other ones that have had that bond and always, stayed together so well. A lot of them swapped out members and had all sorts of things going on. So, but we were very lucky, very lucky.
Another thing that, of course, you guys got to do, which must have been fantastic, was Eurovision. So what was that like to be a part of that family, to get to perform as part of Eurovision?
Well, Eurovision is kind of like mine and Mr. Costa's fault because um, they they approached me, I think, first of all, and said, "How do you feel about Blue getting back together for the Eurovision?" And the first person they talked to me, and I was just like, oh God, this is oof, I need to speak to the boys. I'm not sure how they're going to react to this. So the first person they called was Anthony, and I knew Anthony was like a big Eurovision fan, so he was like really excited. He was like, "Oh my God, this is so cool! I love." We both grew up watching Eurovision. I think kind of Lee and Simon were a bit more skeptical, and we got asked to come in for a meeting at the BBC to discuss it. And so all the boys just, open minds. Let's go with an open mind. And we had a very good meeting with the BBC. We actually played them a couple of tracks that we had written, and they loved I Can. And me and Lee wrote that together, and we were like buzzing because it was like, oh, wicked. Well, they loved that song. So I guess then Lee was excited to do it. And then Simon, Simon was, up for a new experience, I guess, because Eurovision necessarily wasn't his thing. But each to their own. And we had a really great time. It was the maddest thing I think we've ever done as a band. It was so insane. The whole promo schedule in Dusseldorf, we had like a week of being there, and just the crazy things that we were doing. It was honestly insanity, but fabulous insanity.
Now, obviously, away from Blue, you've obviously done a bit of acting, and one of the roles that you got to do was, of course, spending time on Hollyoaks. So, what was that like? Because I imagine that's it's a new sort of skill to learn. It's very different to being an artist. So, how did you find your time in Hollyoaks?
Hollyoaks was a really interesting thing for me because I was doing a lot of theatre at the time. I was doing a lot of musical theatre and stuff. And one of my really good friends, Tamara Wall, who she played Grace Black in Hollyoaks. She was one of my dearest friends. We were in Legally Blonde together back in the day at the Savoy Theatre in the West End. And me and Tam got on so well. I loved her so much. And cut a long story short, she got into Hollyoaks. I introduced her to somebody. And I just remember having this conversation one day on the phone. And she said to me, "Oh my God, why don't you come on audition to Brian Kirkwood at Hollyoaks?" And I said, "Really?" I said, oh, I haven't really thought about that. She was like, oh my God, come, come, come. And then I can see you can do an audition. It'd be great. So I was like, okay. So she kind of set it up. And then I was in Liverpool and I remember going in and doing a read. I was feeling so nervous because this was different kind of thing. And they told me I got the part. And at the time I was doing a musical called Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. I was on tour being a drag queen from Australia. And I loved it. It was so fun. But I was having some really bad problems with my spine, with my back. And I think what the final nail in my coffin, so to speak, was the fact that I was wearing heels every night. And a lot of the theatres we're going to around the country are on a raked stage. So you kind of extra pressure on your lower back and you're dancing around. I was in flip-flops, I was in stilettos, I was in wedges, I was in all sorts of crazy footwear for that show. And my back was just getting worse and worse. And I was getting like so much pain. I was trying to do physio on the road. I'd already had a root block epidural before I started the show because in rehearsals, it was playing up. The doctor basically said to me that you should have some of your disc shaved off because it's impinging on your sciatic nerve and it's causing you a lot of problems. We're containing it obviously with the injections to help, but he goes, that's not going to fix it. You need to fix it. And I was very much like, I have to keep working. I'm in this show. It's like that whole work ethic, the show going. I said, I'm fine. I'll just have another epidural. It'll be fine. I'll just get through this and then I'll get it sorted. Thinking I was invincible and I'll, get it sorted when I finish the run. But obviously my body told me different. And I found myself in a really bad situation with myself going into the very beginning of cauda equina, which is really serious. And I was basically rushed and had emergency surgery to decompress the nerve that was from the disc that had fallen out and was suffocating the nerve. So I lost kind of like the left side of my leg, the feeling of it. I couldn't really feel it, and I had like drop foot, and it was awful. And I'd obviously got this part in Hollyoaks. So this had happened. I was like trying to, not give myself enough time like I always do. You don't listen to your body, do you? Don't listen. And that's the thing. You got to listen to your body sometimes. But, I thought, no, I'll be fine. And thankfully, Hollyoaks put my start date back a few weeks. But it then got to crunch time where I either do it or I don't do it. And at this point, I was out of hospital. I was up and about. I was kind of on a stick. And I said to them, listen, I've just had this back operation. As you know, I am on a stick. So I've got to just be careful for the next couple of weeks. My mum came up with me to Liverpool to settle me in for 2 weeks, stayed with me, bless her, helped me. And then the producers were fabulous with me because they got all of my scenes. I was either propped up at a bar or I was, sat at a table or I was stood like that or, and I was very conscious of my back because I was healing. So I had to be very, very careful. I was taking, painkillers and stuff to try to get through it all. So for the first couple of months for me, it was a real challenge because I was learning a new skill. All of that was going on inside my body. And it was a lot. But having said that, I learned so much from being there. I honestly cannot tell you how much I learned. I learned just every single day I was learning, and I was there for just over 2 years, and I loved that I was almost back at school learning and interacting with they had some incredible actors that I was doing scenes with, and I would just be like, how can you just turn on those tears like that? And it's just like, I was like, oh my God, it's like, you're really upset. You're really upset. And then they would just like stop and be back making jokes. And I'd be like, oh my God, how do you do that? That's like insane. But you as like I said, you learn lots of stuff, and it was a really fun experience.
I mean, that's the amazing thing I think with soaps is people sometimes underestimate how good the quality of work that goes into soaps. Because obviously there's a quick turnaround. I mean, you're sometimes having to like do 6 episodes a week filming. So that for you as an actor must be quite amazing to learn like a new skill of performance.
Yeah, it was. It was really interesting. It was really interesting to learn everything. And I'm really glad I did it. I wouldn't say that it was my most enjoyable stuff that I've done, but I would say that I learned so much from it. They have a very soap actors have a very, very, very hard schedule. It is really grueling. They work so incredibly hard, such long hours, um, and you really have to give that soap literally your life. So it's I take my hat off to all of those soap actors because they're learning lines on the go. They're going in there because of time and money. It's like, well, let's get it done. Let's get it done. We're losing the light. Everything. It's like, especially Hollyoaks, which was filmed on single camera, where the bigger studios which have larger spaces, they're able to shoot on multi-camera. But because Hollyoaks set is more small and more unique, in those spaces you use a single camera. But so it takes a long time to get all the different angles, all the different setups. So you're on set for a long, long time doing a scene, and it's it can be mentally quite tough as well.
Now, we must very briefly mention that someone who is joining Hollyoaks, Rita Simon's your good friend. Are you excited to see her on
Yes.
there?
Oh, I am so excited about Rita. Sorry, that was really camp. But I'm so, listen, I love Rita to bits. Obviously, we're in a band together, like I said before, and she is my girl. I love her with all my heart. We have been through so much together, and she's my little Moomin friend who I just will be friends for life and in the next life. I know for a fact she's just wonderful. So yeah, it's I'm just gutted now my character's dead because I was like, oh, can I just come back for like an episode and do a scene with you? Because we've never really had the opportunity to really work together. And I'm like, please. But no, my character's dead. But listen, I love Rita so much, and yeah,
I mean,
my
bringing
girl.
bringing characters back from the dead on soap is stranger things have happened, so you never know.
I know. You're right. It is. I mean, look, Cindy Beale's back in EastEnders. What can we say?
Now, let's talk a bit about your latest project. You're working alongside Denise Van Outen. So tell us, how did this come about? What have you been doing together?
Well, Denise is another one of my girls who I absolutely adore and treasure and will be a friend for life. I've worked with Denise since the beginning of pretty much the beginning of my career with Blue. She was one of the first people that interviewed us back in the day. I think it was Big Breakfast when we were first starting out. And then our kind of paths kept crossing, especially with musicals like Chicago that we both did together. We found ourselves up several times to be in the show at the same time, but due to unforeseen circumstances, it never actually happened. But we were always on the phone. Oh my God, this is so exciting! But then we got back together for a big anniversary of Chicago in the West End, and we both got to be performing on stage at the same time. So that was really nice to be in that. And then we used to, back in the day, we presented things like Party in the Park together, um, which was crazy. I mean, we did a lot. We both did the school musical program, which was Sky One, and that was which one did she do? I did Grease the school musical. I think she did Hairspray the school musical. So she presented season one, Hairspray, and I presented season two, Grease. So again, our paths kept crossing. And then she rang me up and she was like, "I would love you to be on Gogglebox with me." So yeah, um, that was just lovely, and we have such a lovely time filming that show together. It's one of the nicest things. I probably one of the nicest jobs I've ever done. It's just so lovely. You're sitting with your mate. It's genuinely how you see it. You're sitting with your mate. You're having your snacks. You get some drinks if you want a drink. If you want a glass of wine, you can have a glass of wine. If you want a cup of tea, you can have a cup of tea. And you're with your mate, and we just natter, and we get to watch all this fabulous stuff that I probably wouldn't ever have seen or heard about because of my schedule. I'm never really home to see stuff. So I report back to my mum. I go, "Oh, mum, we got to watch this. This come out on Netflix. It looks really good." And I'll pull up the trailer for her, and we'll sit down, and then we'll get it up, and it'll be our next thing to watch, which is nice. Oh, I just watched, by the way, a big tip. If anybody likes Mask Girl, it's a Korean film. I don't know if you've seen it. It's wonderful. I loved it. It's a little bit messed up. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but I really love Korean films. I think they do things a little bit more twisted, which I quite like. So yeah, this was a really good series on Netflix. It's called Mask Girl. Highly recommend. Oh, and one more recommendation because people like a recommendation.
Got to be done.
Um, it's got to be done. I There's a really another good show on. I think it's Netflix as well, and it is um with, oh my gosh, my brain. It's about McDonald's.
Oh, I
It's
think I,
about it's called the Founder. That's it. Brain working. It's called the Founder, and it's about the story of McDonald's and how it originated. And it's wonderful. It's so good. You've got to watch it. The Founder.
noted. We'll definitely have to check that one out.
You
Now
have to. Yeah.
I believe some new music is on the way. Have you been working with Denise on a single or something?
Yes. Sorry, I keep diverting, don't I? This is like going to be the longest. There's going to be a lot of editing in this interview because I don't stop talking. You're probably waiting to go for your dinner, aren't you? And there's me waffling away. Um, do you know what? Yes. During our time in Gogglebox, we were sitting there together and we just were talking. We were saying to each other, we've got to get into the studio and do a song together. And because we're both musical theatre lovers and love a bit of a jazz hand, um, she came up with the idea of doing "That's What Friends Are For." It was one of her favourite songs. She loved it, and she just was like, "Oh, let's just do it." And then, once we've done it, I think we should give it to a really good charity. And because that's what friends are for. Because when you're going through a sickness or an illness, it's really important to have your support system around you, your friends, your family. And she just was like, I'd like to do it with Macmillan because her grandparents died of cancer. The Macmillan nurses looked after her grandparents. And she always remembers how supportive and amazing the nurses were to not just her grandparents, but to her and her family, and the care and the support that they were giving the whole family as a whole. And she never forgot that. And so, yeah, it's just a wonderful cause. And the Macmillan Coffee Morning is on the 29th of this month, September. And there's people obviously on the day, or they can do it any other day around the year, can put on a coffee morning. But the big day is on the 29th of September, and it's obviously raising money for Macmillan. And if you want to do a coffee morning with your friends, it's something really nice to do. You can put on Duncan and Denise, That's What Friends Are For, and you can eat a Colin the Caterpillar, which you can get a special edition one at Marks and Spencer's in the cafes, because obviously this is Marks and Spencers are helping promote the campaign for Macmillan. They're all in their coffee shops around the country, and you can buy, like I said, a limited edition Colin the Caterpillar, and the proceeds. Some of the proceeds go to Macmillan, and with mine and Denise's song, we're putting all the proceeds to Macmillan. So this isn't about anything for us. No, monetary reward and nothing like that. It's just we want to give something back. I think it's a beautiful charity to do. It's helping Macmillan, helping the coffee morning, helping awareness. And I think everybody out there has been touched by at least one person who's had cancer or lost somebody to cancer. And the statistic is, 1 in 2 of us will get it, which is just mind boggling. How did it get to that? Do you know what I mean? And it's really scary. So obviously, we're in a world where money is a huge issue with everything that's going on in the world, as we all feel our pockets getting tighter, being squeezed more and more. But it's really lovely that people are helping, really supporting, downloading the song, and like I said, it's going to a really good cause. So thank you to everybody that's had a listen or downloaded it. I really appreciate it, really, really do, and I hope that you like it because I think me and Denise sound really nice together.
It's a great song.
I do.
I really recommend people check it out. It is fantastic. Now, just before we go, I wanted to ask, is there any messages you'd like to give to any of the amazing NHS staff out there, or to any of the patients that are currently stuck in hospital at the moment? Anything you'd like to say?
Oh, I'd like to say so much, but I know you've got to run for your tea, and I don't want to keep you another hour with me chatting away. But I'll condense it for you. Just to say, it's wonderful that we have this NHS, and I know it's been a really difficult time, especially for the NHS with everything that's gone on. I just think we have to just support as much as we can. Do you know what I mean? And all the patients that are in hospital right now, I'm sending all my love, speedy recovery to you all. And yeah, I just thank you to you as well for having me on your show, and I really appreciate it. It's been lovely having a little chat. I don't get to go out much and have a chat with people, so yeah.
I was going to say,
It's all
Duncan,
work for me.
I was going to say it's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been a lovely chat. Thank you.
You're
It
welcome
hasn't
back.
felt like work.
You're welcome back anytime. Of course, keep safe, and yeah, thank you again for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.